Emotional self-control is something that is actually attractive in us and something that's expected of us as fathers and men in particular today. And I think, that like the emotional self-control can be like a clamp around them, And so there's moments where it can be okay to be vulnerable and other times where you do have to keep it together.
Welcome to the Be It Till You See It podcast, where we talk about taking messy action, knowing that perfect is boring. I'm Lesley Logan, Pilates instructor and fitness business coach. I've trained thousands of people around the world, and the number one thing I see stopping people from achieving anything is self-doubt. My friends, action brings clarity, and it's the antidote to fear. Each week, my guests will bring bold, executable, intrinsic, and targeted steps that you can use to put yourself first and be it till you see it. It's a practice, not a perfect. Let's get started. Welcome back to the Be It Till You See It interview recap. My co-host in life, Brad, and I are going to dig into the devoted convo I had with Jay Twining in our last episode. If you haven't yet listened to this interview, feel free to pause this now, go back and listen to that one, and then come back and join us. You guys, this is coming out around the Father's Day weekend in the U.S., and so I thought the devoted father episode should be around the same weekend as that. If Father's Day is a different day where you live, then there's a method to this madness, and you should still enjoy it right now because we're talking about it right now. Today is, it's June 15th, if you're listening real time. And I love this. My team put some notes. It's Sneak a Kiss Day, but if you want to, we could talk about World Elder Abuse Awareness Day instead. And it's like,
I kept trying to find something that was like father-like, and the only father-like thing was Elder Abuse Awareness Day. I was like, that's dark as F.
So here's the deal. If you're going to sneak a kiss, make sure you have the consent of the person you're sneaking a kiss from, period.
Fair.
However, we should talk about World Elder Abuse because it is an international holiday. And also, I don't think we have to actually know how this works. And the truth is that depending on where you live in this world, there may not be enough places for your elderly families to be at. If you live in the States, I'm talking to you. There's just not enough places for our family folks to be at. And it's really, really important that you understand what is happening when they're there and that you are an advocate for them. So please take some time to talk with the elders in your life about what they would like their life to be like and what they would like you to do, and make sure there's some communication around that. Brad's been doing a bunch of stuff about our death shit. And it's important. It's important to have living wills. It's important to talk about this. It's also important if you see a bruise on people, investigate. Yes, they have thin skin, but
I mean, it's the thing when you think elder abuse awareness. Sometimes it's family directly, and that could be neglect. That could be actual abuse, and maybe like your in-laws living with you or your family members older and living with you. But it could also be from a facility that they're in. Yeah,
there was a facility, many facilities actually. I have friends who work in the industry, and there was this one facility that was drugging these certain elderly patients of a type of illness to basically make them catatonic so they wouldn't have to deal with them. And that is abuse. They don't need to be on that medication. So, and it is so hard once they're in there. So please make sure that if your parents are not yet in that stage, make sure you know what the insurances are going to allow them to do. Make sure you have a conversation and make sure you have this preparedness happening, because that would be the worst thing to discover.
Well, I also find it strange, not that I'm an expert on this, but I just think it's weird how we as Americans don't really
take care of our elderly. We just put them in a home.
Well, but I was going to say we don't respect the elderly.
I know
culturally.
I know in Cambodia it's so different.
It's so different in Cambodia.
Everyone takes care of Grandma Ack. Everybody.
Yeah. In Cambodian culture, if you're old, you are revered, and your community takes care of you. It's not just your family.
And also everyone's a little bit afraid of grandma.
Maybe, I guess, but
in a good way,
there's just a lot of, it's a different perspective, here it's we hit, mid-late 70s and then, we're too busy for them or something. It's just weird. It's a very different lifestyle.
Also I don't blame the people who've ignored their family members a certain age who have opposite beliefs of them. So then that's hard.
There's that too.
Because like, it's hard. It was, I mean, we talked about this in the podcast. It was so hard whenever I'd call my grandfather and he's like, just waiting to die. And it's like, well, I think I'm going to stop calling you because that's hurting my mental health. So it just, look, I say this as it is so hard. This is not something I want to talk about, but it is important. At least be aware of the elders in your life and make sure that they have care, or you know what the plans are for care.
Yeah.
And then be curious if there are bruises or anything going on. Trust your gut on that and be aware of it. It's World Elder Abuse Day. And if that depresses the fuck out of you, like it does me, then sneak a kiss from someone who's okay with you kissing them. All right. On to the next thing that's happening in this world.
Webinars.
June 21st, we're doing a webinar. If you want to know how to convert first-time clients, this is for you. Y'all, this is
a profitable Pilates webinar.
It's also the first thing I ever did in coaching teachers around business. It's like literally the reason why I started coaching people in business is because someone was like, how come you have so many clients? How come every person who comes in for a first session becomes a client who buys a big package? And I was like, isn't that my job? And then I realized it's so hard for people. So this is actually how I became a coach. So it's going to be amazing is what I'm saying. It's 13 years of awesomeness that you're going to get for like, if you get it early, $25. If you get it late, $37. Hello. Amazing. Go to the link in the show notes for that. And then in July, we're going to be in the UK. We're going to be in Leeds, and we're going to have a couple spots left on our mullet tour.
Yeah, there's only a few left. It's amazing.
I know.
Very excited. So if you're on the fence, don't wait. Because there's limited seats just because of the space in the studio.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So thanks Claire Sparrow for hosting us, and we can't wait to be there. Go to opc.me/UK for that. And then in August we're doing our West Coast tour. So hello California, Oregon, Washington, and then I don't know, something on the way home, I'm sure. But go to opc.me/tour to make sure you hear about all the cities we stop at. We're getting all the cities nailed down, locked in, and loaded, and we're so freaking stoked. Bringing the dogs.
Yeah, we should have more news actually in like a week.
Yeah. Technically in real time, we'll probably have the news happening.
From this one. This is out. Yeah.
Oh, from a week from this. Okay, cool. Goals. September, we'll be in Poland. Signed up at contrologypilatesconference.com. So there's a wonderful host who is bringing in Contrology equipment to Poland. She's bringing in a couple of us teachers there. We're doing a lot of amazing workshops. And yes, we're bringing the flashcards. So get your THASs there because this might be my only time in the next couple of years hitting that up. So we'll see you there. And of course, in October, there is still time to join us in Cambodia on our retreat. We have a few spots left. Our house is basically full. So if you are like, don't use it as an excuse to not come, grab the last spots. We know how many we can have. And it's going to be a lot of fun. You don't want to miss this one.
Oh, we have a great group already coming. And seriously.
Amazing ladies.
Yeah, and we got a mom and daughter couple coming.
Do. And we might have a husband and wife, so that's so fun.
And we have besties coming, and I'm pretty sure the husband's not going to do the Pilates on that, so that's an option too for y'all who have a partner who isn't into Pilates. That's okay. Yeah, they can join us for all the food and the fun and the tours and you know the experience. It's a lovely vacation, even if they're not there for the workshops.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, and you know what? I just can't wait. We just got back from Korea, and I already miss the humidity. Like, I miss it. My lips are chapped all the time. I want to get back. I want to get back to Asia.
It's also getting drier here right now. It's like really, I noticed it, really strong in the last week. Like,
I know. But as
soon as we got home, I was like, oh, yeah, it's dry. But then, like, over a week later, I'm like, whoa.
Yeah, but your cactus looks phenomenal.
Oh, my gosh.
They've all doubled in size.
Yeah, it's incredible. Yeah. The really insane growth and beautiful flowers this year.
Yeah, but that's actually not what comes next. So
no.
We first have an audience question.
We do. This is a long one, so bear with me here. This one's from Cassie Bernard. And she says, listening to this episode completes a line in the OPC Go challenge for me, which was OPC. We did this awesome bingo style game. And she said, I'm curious about the term Jenny used, nutraceuticals. Is this a compilation list found on the Institute for Functional Medicine? Since menopause hit me like a Mack truck in 2020, I've become my own expert like Jenny, researching so much information, books, resources, podcasts, talked to my doctor, and started hormone replacement therapy about 7 months ago. It's amazing how so many of the things that you both mentioned, trouble sleeping, digestion, stress, can find solutions in non-pharmaceutical treatments. I too had infertility issues for years in traditional medicine techniques to try and conceive until I learned about, bear with me here, craniosacral therapy.
Craniosacral therapy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Love this conversation about exploring beyond. Do you have any podcast interviews about craniosacral therapies?
So actually, after I saw this question, I was in Connecticut and I got a craniosacral session for myself. And I was just there and they were doing craniosacral. I'm like, hi, I have an audience member who has a question. Can I get a craniosacral massage? And also, would you mind answering this question? So in a moment, our voices are going to go away and our amazing team is going to edit in a audio answer from Alyssa, who is a craniosacral massage therapist out of Connecticut, and we'll have all of her links in the show notes below. I'm so excited for
that's so cool. Before we go to that clip though, just some definitions for anyone who is listening to that going, I don't know what the fuck any of those words mean. Nutraceuticals is actually food that it contains health-giving additives and having medicinal benefits. So that's nutraceuticals, is food. Craniosacral therapy is a gentle hands-on technique that uses a light touch to examine membranes and movement of the fluids in and around the central nervous system. So around the head and the neck. Is that right? That's what happened?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the whole body. So
CST it's referred to.
I'm super excited for Alyssa to answer this question in just a moment. I'm so excited for you to have that. I don't know when our team's going to edit in, so I'm just going to keep talking. As far as Jenny, I love her and her advice here. You know, as far as non-pharmaceutical options, Brad actually used to be in a company where they experienced not being able to like get FDA approval on a drug that could have helped people who had herpes sores around their mouth because it was an all natural product.
Yeah, and it's kind of fucked up the way that the government allows you to patent things and to the formulas in medicines. So there was a scientist doctor who figured out how he could use plants to attack
the herpes virus.
So there's this company that I used to work with where there was a doctor, scientist who had figured out some parts of some plants that could actually help humans battle herpes 1, 2, and 3. So like 3 is shingles, herpes 1 and 2 are, what you know. But do
you know what my sex ed teacher said to me? And his daughter was in my class. He said it used to be that herpes 1 was up here and herpes 2 was down there, but then everyone got creative and now herpes 1 and 2 are happening everywhere. That's how it was explained to me in high school. And my friend, who was his daughter, was like, I'm so embarrassed. Anyways, keep going.
Okay. Yeah, picking it back up. So what actually happened was they figured out a formula that's all natural, and they tried to get it approved by the FDA, and they couldn't because there were no chemicals in it that they could actually, patent. And so it became this crazy journey to then like insert unneeded chemicals into this all natural product just so they could get a patent on it.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
Eventually everything stopped because what the fuck?
Yeah. So anyways, Cassie, definitely, continue your journey on figuring out what works for you, because when it does come to menopause, like perimenopause does, it's a very personal approach and you do have to try out different things. And if you listen to the last recap, we actually talked about some books for that. And then as far as craniosacral goes, I know you don't live in Connecticut, so Alyssa might not be your person, but take a listen to her, reach out to her.
There's got to be somebody else near you.
Reach out to her and we'll work on getting some other full episodes on that. But I just didn't want you to wait until we could get someone in to record them because it might be months from now. So here is her amazing advice.
What is craniosacral therapy? So craniosacral therapy is a gentle hands-on technique that's used to assess your central nervous system and your body's fascia. Your fascia is a connective tissue that lines every organ, every muscle, every bone, and every neuron in your body. And so sometimes the body's fascia can get tight and wound up, and it needs some help in relieving some tension. And your central nervous system is made up of your brain and your spinal cord. So we're really using craniosacral therapy to assess what's going on in that central nervous system, and also feeling the movements of the bones of the skull, something that isn't really talked about much. Those bones are constantly moving, and sometimes when the body's fascia is a little bit tight and there's some tension there, it can hinder some movement of those bones, and certain symptoms can show up, like migraines or headaches or even TMJ. So those are going to be some conditions that craniosacral therapy is really helpful in relieving. And if you also have a history of trauma, maybe PTSD, a past surgery can also create some scar tissue and help in wind up that body's fascia. And so we really see that emotions can be stored in the body's fascia as well, and that can cause some issues with the connective tissue and its movement. So craniosacral therapy can be very helpful in those conditions. It's also very helpful in chronic headaches or migraines, also TMJ or chronic pain, fibromyalgia, anxiety or depression. It can be very helpful for those conditions because we're assessing the body's, sometimes when we're assessing, there can be a misalignment, and relieving some of that tension can help with some of those symptoms. And in terms of perimenopause, it can be very helpful if you're experiencing any mood changes, anxiety, or depression, because we really are working to support the central nervous system and support the parasympathetic nervous system specifically, which is our rest and digest center. Many of us don't spend enough time in that part of our nervous system, so supporting it can be very helpful, and stimulating that part of the nervous system can be very helpful as well in relieving some of those mood changes and perimenopause. I really hope this was helpful and answered some of your questions about craniosacral therapy. If you're looking for a craniosacral therapist, a quick Google search of craniosacral therapist near me can be helpful. You're looking for somebody who's certified in craniosacral therapy. They may be a massage therapist, a physical therapist. Also, naturopathic doctors like me can also perform craniosacral therapy as well. So I really hope this was helpful, and I definitely recommend giving craniosacral therapy a try.
And we'll be right back.
Okay, now let's talk about Jay Twining. As a past game designer who made the decision not to repeat his own father's mistakes, Jay Twining is an example of a father navigating his career and parenting. He now works as a personal brand strategist and is a creator of the Feel Good Fatherhood podcast, and he highlights honest conversations with men about fatherhood.
Yeah. It's kind of like the fitness guys we've had. So like just another, I think it's cool that there's some dudes out there going, hey, we actually want to be vulnerable and we want to have deeper conversations. Wouldn't that be cool? I think it's really awesome.
I totally agree. And also the interview with Jay was like, yeah, we talked about his pod, but actually we talked mostly about his story.
I know.
You know, and like
I love the
how
journey.
he came to the decision of, you know, what the pod was, and then, you know, where he is today and what he's doing now, and the struggle that he went through to having achieved his like personal goal, and then realizing that the achieving of that goal was actually wrecking his life.
And also, since we interviewed him, he and his family were able to like sell their house and move to Nashville. And now he is supporting the family so his wife can go figure out what she wants to do, because
yeah, they've been able to flip.
they've been flipping it. So I think it's just, this is like a really
pretty cool.
I think it's really cool because like in relationships, like who said it's like 50-50? And then I watched up The View for 1 second. And this, and this one woman whose name is escaping me, but she's like, it's 90-10, 90% someone, 10% the other. But the point is that it shouldn't be 90% always one person. Like it switches back and forth.
Yeah.
And I think that makes a lot of sense. So anyways, I really enjoyed this conversation. I actually wanted to bring up the part where he said it's totally fine for you to be alone. What is not okay is for you to feel lonely. And that was from another game developer when he was working. And I just really enjoyed this because I think that like it can get confusing about like, like how much time we should be spending with people, like what should we be doing, like how busy should we be, you know, like some people are like too busy to die, like everyone's just really busy, or then they're like they do nothing, the pendulum swings so far away. And it's important to like acknowledge like I am alone in this moment, but I am not lonely, and like understanding what your feelings are as you're going through it. So I really like that. And then he also said that he try to come up with the 5 questions that can help you build a relationship with anybody. So like, you know, Brad, you've been in sales, I've been in sales. So like you start to, by rejection, learn what like the best things and the easiest things are to get information about what people want. like what people are motivated by, what people are interested in talking about. Like you get really good at that when you are in a job that's a service industry job, like at a restaurant or in a store. And so if you've never had those jobs, you might not have these skill sets, but start to pay attention to what questions light you up when you answer them. Like if someone asks you a question, you are like, wow, yeah, no one's ever asked me that before. Write these things down in notes in your phone, because he was like, have these top 5 questions, because it allows you to be in a room with anybody and really get into a deep conversation with someone and start to build a relationship, because we all need friendships in this world and they're going to come in a variety of places. But like, oftentimes we're like, how are you? I'm good. How are you? Great. What do you do?
How you doing today? Great.
Oh, the weather.
Still alive.
Let's talk about them Cowboys. Blah, blah, blah. Boring, boring, boring.
I think the reality is it's easy to deflect, with like superficial top level questions and answers like that. But getting deeper definitely takes practice. It's like you can still like think through it and be prepared. And then when you're in the moment, you're like blank and you forget, so in order to, you have to be intentional about the conversation. And
what do you mean you have to actually listen?
Yeah, but you could be listening and they're doing superficial shit, is my point. So like, if you want, having a list of questions is a great idea, because it allows you to steer the conversation to a deeper place where you can get to know them.
Well, and also if you don't want to talk about work, then make sure your questions to them don't have to do with their work. Because the reciprocity game is that if you ask them about what they do, they are going to ask you what you do.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to do that, you have to talk about like, oh my gosh, what are your favorite restaurants? Or we just moved here. Like, where do you go for date night? Where do you go to like, just like relax? Where do you go to just like get in touch with nature? Oh my gosh. They might go, oh, wow, I haven't gotten in touch with nature in 10 years. You could have a deep conversation about that, so like, it's okay, I thought these were practical tips. I really enjoyed it. What did you love?
Yeah. So he said part of the Feel Good Fatherhood is really being in touch with what's happening on the inside, knowing that you have an emotion and that you know how to handle it. And he was really talking a lot about anger and how that's like a built-in response mostly, and we don't realize that that's a natural response, but letting that, carry through. It's important to feel the feels, but also you can't just freak out and fly off the handle. But he was also talking about vulnerability and, when is it appropriate to share and when is it not appropriate to share? And he talked about like the Stoic man approach where they're heroes, think about, I guess Clark Kent had Lois Lane and he was probably vulnerable with her, but from the rest of society's perspective, like he's just the Man of Steel and he's never vulnerable because he's always taking care of business, or any of these superheroes.
Did Lois Lane know that he was a superhero?
I don't think at first.
I don't think so.
I think at the towards the middle and the end of their relationship. It's the same with Spider-Man and Mary Jane. I mean, she didn't know at first, but
Yeah. But it's so interesting. Like, I feel like this is great advice for everybody, not just like, I love it that I think it's so important for men to be having this conversation and to like really, I think this is really, really important. But I also think that like everyone listening to this could also go, I need to like understand these things. I need to understand these things about myself. I need to understand what's going on inside of my body. I need to understand how to express my emotions in a way that is not restrictive, but also appropriate,
I feel like there's a lot of generational, it's generational too, your dad is in his 70s, my parents are in their 60s, as the generations have gone by, I do think that there's a different approach, think about like listening to stories of your dad talk about his parents. It's fucking horrifying. Unbelievable to me.
Yeah. I would call that abuse.
Yeah. It's like listening to him tell stories is just jaw dropping, and
that would today that would be considered child abuse.
Yeah.
But back then I think that was how every child was raised.
But also even just the relationship between his dad and mom.
Oh.
It was like, there was like, it was just
no love.
Fascinating. Yeah. Fascinating to listen to how far things have shifted. And I think hopefully in a positive way, but even my parents didn't talk about, sex, money, religion, politics. They did not talk about it. It just never,
Well, I think a lot of people's relationship with their parents, with their fathers, since this is what this episode about, especially at least in your parents' generation, my parents' generation, like my grandmother did work because my mom's mom worked because my mom's dad also worked, but he was like blue collar. Like he was in the plants, y'all. He had a uniform, had his name Jake on it, pompadour.
right.
And like had the same job forever. He fucking retired from the same job he always
40 years,
had.
yeah.
And my grandmother did have a job. Also, she was 16 when she had a baby. So there's that. But my dad's parents, like that's a traditional, like American family kids of the 50s and 60s. She didn't work. She ran the house.
Right.
And grandpa went to work every single day, and he came home, he drank, and he didn't talk to his kids, and they would only talk when they're hunting. And if you got lost, and good luck finding a campsite on your way home. Like,
Yeah.
And so I think so that was my dad's representation of parents.
Yeah.
So for him to actually be a father that like I truly love and so grateful for, it is shocking.
Well, what coming back to what Jay was talking about too, and like, yes, your dad, I think, would be the ideal like representation of the Stoic man. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess it just is what it is, and I'm going to live with it.
And he ended up burning out. He was on stress leave from his work for 2 years because of that.
I didn't even know.
Yeah.
But what Jay's talking about is that, the Stoic man, they just accept what's happening and they just keep on keeping on. Right.
Yeah.
But he said that emotional self-control is something that is actually attractive in us and something that's expected of us as fathers and men in particular today. And I think, that like the emotional self-control can be like a clamp around them, And so there's moments where it can be okay to be vulnerable and other times where you do have to keep it together, especially if like there's a catastrophe happening, someone, like hopefully you can keep your head on.
I also think that like it's so important for everyone to have outlets. Like I think it's so important. You were talking with someone in your family about the partner needing a hobby, right. and I think like it is so important that in partnerships there is a place for each person to have the ability to release their emotions in a vulnerable setting that allows it to go on, where like maybe in front of the children it's not appropriate to release those emotions in that moment. You got to figure out what it is. But also like each person has to have a way of expressing themselves. And getting to know themselves and what they need. I think this idea that men should just have it all together, it's so weird to me because like women also are expected to have it all together in like certain places. And it's just, I think what's happening is like people are just not being honest with themselves about how they're feeling, what they're feeling, and they don't have people to go to. And you and I have best friends that we're best friends. But we also have best friends that are not you and I, because you have to have other people. You cannot be 100% of everything I ever needed in this world. Back when there was tribes, like there was a partner, but then there was the women's group who did this, and there was this over here. And like, that's important so that each person can like express how they're feeling without putting pressure on the other person to like have it, like hold it all together.
Yeah. And I think, with the hobbies and stuff, like I think about sports and, playing whatever, just like that kind of a thing is a way to release that energy. But also, honestly, I really would encourage communication with your partner as the way to get that information out. And Jay was he straight up said, it's important for men to understand how to communicate what is going on inside them, to be tuned in to what is happening inside them, and to be able to express that meaningfully. And, not in like anger, but actually have a discussion about it. And I know that my first relationship, I blame a lot of it exploding due to poor communication. Mm-hmm. Poor communication when we were dating, poor communication when we were, moving, poor communication when we were together. And, unfortunately it takes two to tango. So it was, both of us not really figuring that out. And when that was like my ultimate decision at the end was like, how come this all blew up? Was the expectations weren't met. Well, why weren't the expectations weren't met is because they weren't communicated very well. Mm-hmm. And I think that, when it comes to this stuff, especially the Stoic man, it creates, a ticking time bomb of a person, that eventually something's going to snap, So that communication is key.
I love it.
Yeah. All right.
It goes back to those 5 fucking questions.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you can.
And other things.
I mean, if you're still asking 5 questions of your partner, then.
I mean, it's so hard. You guys, this is why there are therapists in this world, and there are groups, and it's not easy to be an adult in a new city. It's not easy to, it's so funny to me. My grandparents, my mom's parents were married for, I guess, 58 years.
Wow.
58 years? Yeah. Yeah, I think that's how old my mom was when my grandma passed.
Oh, your mom's.
My mom's parents.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right, because I got married at 16 and 17 or something.
And we asked them, how did you stay married? And they said, we don't count the first 9 years.
Yeah.
And it's because they tried to divorce each other and it didn't work out.
Right.
Because it cost money. So at any rate, what's so crazy is back in the day, you just didn't get divorced. You just sucked it up.
Right.
You just kept it in and you just kept going.
Talk about the Stoic man.
And talk about Stoic everything. And it's so interesting because I was just reading the beit Instagram and some people were sharing the shame they had at divorcing at 30 from the episode we had with Renee Bauer. And it's so funny to me because I'm like, how cool is it that we get to live in a world where we go, ooh, this person, no. This person does not bring out the best in me. I do not bring out the best in them.
I mean, I'll tell you when my ex and I, when it was all going downhill, in my mind, I kept asking the question, why did I ever get married in the first place? Which was shocking to me because I always wanted to be married. And I didn't think that divorce was an option because in my family, you don't get divorced. So I was like, I guess this is life now. And I will figure it out. I don't fucking know. But I was literally resigned to that. And I was like, all right, I guess this is going to be what it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And I'm really happy that my ex, the one who was like, I'm not okay with that. We're done. Because if it had been my decision, we would probably have suffered.
Yeah. And so thank God for that, for her, but also that those experiences help us all. If you can actually learn from the experiences that you didn't enjoy in your past, I think they all come down to listening to other people and communicating your needs. Anyways, we have beit action items.
We do. All right. So finally, let's talk about those beit action items. What bold, executable, intrinsic, or targeted action items can we take away from your combo with Jay Twining? All right. He said he had 3 questions that were the 3 core steps. He said success leaves clues. And the first step is research, right? So whatever it is that you're going after with your career or your goals or your life or whatever, he said you need to research it. And then the second is you need to practice it. And then the third is that you have to evaluate whether or not you still like it. So let's dig into each of those. So Core, he talked about research. He did a bunch of research and he was reading a lot of books, blogs. He talked about his old mentor. And then he said, someone who is a mentor of his said, if you want to be an investor, then you have to do what investors do. You have to read the financial reports every day. So if your goal is to be a blogger, a podcaster, or a Pilates teacher, or a mom, or I don't know, whatever it is, then you got to dive in. So you got to actually learn about that thing. Right. He said, for example, Warren Buffett reads the financial reports every single day. So if you want to do the thing, do the work every single day.
That is definitely being it until you see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the other 2 are apply and practice, which this is I'm in. I'm in. So apply and practice. So for example, if you want to invest, you got to apply what you're learning and do that. And then you have to evaluate it. So you actually have to look back and go, how did that feel? Do I like it? What worked? What didn't work? And then ask yourself if you want to keep trying it. So if investing doesn't light your fire.
Oh, it's not necessarily about investing. This is whatever your goal is.
Whatever your goals. So for example, I use jeans a lot because everybody buys jeans. You might think that you want high-waisted skinny jeans and you are like, yep, this is what I want. But you got to go research, like, okay, where are the high-waisted skinny jeans at? Where can I buy these? What is the price point that I'm willing to do? Then you have to go and try them on. And then you actually have to evaluate, do I like how these feel on my body? Do I like this? I know Jay's probably like, this has nothing to do with fatherhood. I know, but this is like a way to picture yourself, like taking the research, applying, and practicing it. And you just like go, okay, how does this feel? How does this make me feel? Do I like how I feel? And then you can make your changes. You can actually return shit that you don't like. And then you can go off and do another thing. Maybe in the meantime, someone was like, hey, I think these would look good on you. And you go, whoa, I think I like this. But then you still have to apply, practice, and evaluate. So
another good example is that my sister went to school for biology and wanted to become a PA, a physician's assistant. And she's like, I'm going to do this. I'm in on this. And she went to undergrad, and, you know, she had a lot of fun playing soccer there as well. And she went and did this biology degree in undergrad. And in order to become a PA, you have to have, you know, a couple thousand hours of experience working in a hospital before they even let you in the program. So she was like, all right. So she went and started working in the ER at a hospital near where we grew up, and hated it. Absolutely hated it. And had the willingness to say, this is not for me. I need to figure something else out. And then, you know, ended up finding a love of project management when she went to work for another company in the field of soccer. And
now she's doing that with us.
She's doing that, and she loves it.
Yeah. Yeah. So I love this. I thought these beit action items are really easy to apply no matter who you are in this world, father or not. Yeah. So I thank you, Jay, for being an incredible human, and I love what you're doing. And if you have fathers in your life, go send them to the Feel Good Fatherhood. I'm Lesley Logan.
And I'm Brad Crowell.
Thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for listening to this and asking your questions. If you are getting the Be It Pod emails every single Thursday, there's an easy way to submit the questions you want us to answer on that. And until next time, be it till you see it.
Bye for now.
That's all I got for this episode of the Be It Till You See It podcast. One thing that would help both myself and future listeners is for you to rate the show and leave a review. And follow or subscribe for free wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, make sure to introduce yourself over at the Be It Pod on Instagram. I would love to know more about you. Share this episode with whoever you think needs to hear it. Help us and others be it till you see it. Have an awesome day.
Be It Till You See It is a production of the Bloom Podcast Network.
It's written, filmed, and recorded by your host, Lesley Logan, and me, Brad Crowell.
It is produced and edited by the epic team at Diseño.
Our theme music is by Ali at Apex Production Music, and our branding by designer and artist Gianfranco Cioffi.
Special thanks to Melissa Solomon for creating our visuals and Samena Velazquez for our transcriptions.
Also to Angelina Herrico for adding all the content to our website, and finally to Meredith Crowell for keeping us all on point and on time.